So when it comes to the argument about who the real heart and soul of AEW really is, well, a lot of people have got a lot of different opinions. Some people, like for obvious reasons, point to Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega. And then you've got people who point to Jon Moxley and, maybe in more recent times, Bryan Danielson. But for me, the undisputed heart and soul of this company is undoubtedly a certain anxious millennial cowboy known as Hangman Adam Page. And you know what? This was a heart and soul that was actually in need of saving after a pretty rough couple of years. And this video right here is about to show you, sat wherever you are in the world, how AEW managed to do exactly that. Because I am Gareth, this is What Culture Wrestling, and here is how AEW saved its soul. So if we're going to talk about how AEW managed to save their soul being Hangman Adam Page, we need to first look at how said soul got lost in the first place. Over the first couple of years of AEW's existence, Hangman Adam Page was the main character, wasn't he? He was the guy who was at the center of a lot of the storylines, a lot of the long-term storylines. This was the guy that you were massively invested in. We saw him go from being like an elite member who didn't really know his place, didn't feel comfortable within the group, and then he obviously lost his way, started depending on alcohol a little bit, and then get some new friends in the Dark Order. Like, he finally found real friendship and then rediscovered who he is, and like eventually got to the very top of the mountain and even beat his old friend Kenny Omega to win the big belt. It was a whole thing. It was an emotional roller coaster, and we loved every damn second of it. But not only did all of this really establish Hangman Page as a bona fide megastar main event talent, but it also established him as a real babyface of today, of the modern day. Someone who's got flaws, got issues, they're not perfect, but they do everything they can to just brush themselves back up and go again and just do what they can to be their very best. And it was lovely seeing like the Hangman Page wrestler really evolve during this period as well. He went from somebody who you could tell just wasn't really 100% comfortable in their role, like didn't really know where their place was in AEW, and then as he finally found it, he just grew in confidence in between the ropes as well, and he just became one of the absolute most reliable people that AEW had when it came to putting on incredible matches. But then after winning the World Championship and putting on some incredible matches against Bryan Danielson, Lance Archer, and Adam Cole, well, things all got a bit weird when a certain punker came to town. Because obviously you know the story by now, these two ended up like in a feud. They were thrown together coming into Double or Nothing 2022, I believe it was, yes, and Hangman started shooting from the hip, apparently, and things, well, they got messy. Because again, if you don't know the full story by this point, I really do recommend just like going online, having a real deep dive into it. But like the Cliff Notes version is pretty much that Hangman Page felt that CM Punk was responsible for Colt Cabana not really being on television during that whole CM Punk period in AEW. So he called him out for it. He said something about like workers' rights, Punk was not happy about this, and the whole thing, it just felt a bit horrible and weird, and they didn't trust each other, and the match itself wasn't great, and it was all there. But then in that match at Double or Nothing, Hangman dropped the belt to CM Punk. CM Punk then got injured and had to like vacate the belt. But then Hangman, ever since that moment, he got a bit lost, didn't he? Like, he still appeared on television, like he was still in tag matches and like in little feuds here or there, like some decent feuds to be honest, some quite underrated feuds when you look back, but he just wasn't, I don't know, the vibes weren't there in the way they were in the past. Like, you weren't drawn to him, you weren't engaging with him as a character like we did in all those years leading up to his big world title win. It just felt like he was on the outside looking in a little bit. Like, yeah, there were some highlights in there, like he had a pretty good feud with Mox, which all culminated in that brilliant match that they had at Revolution, and then there was the Elite reunion that went down as well. Like, that was a nice moment in itself, but for the most part it just felt like Hangman Page was quite happy just sitting on the sidelines, staying out the spotlight a little bit after all the very real backstage drama between CM Punk and the Elite. We all know everything about what happened there, but it felt like Hangman Page was the kind of person who was, I don't know, maybe a casualty of it all. He didn't feel himself for way too long. And to be honest, it is little surprise that during this period where that one-time main character of the company was a bit lost in the abyss, whatever it is, there's no surprise that AEW as a product at that point felt a bit like unfocused as well. It felt like it didn't have a direction. It was just kind of pulling in loads of different directions, and it was a time where a lot of people were questioning, well, what's the identity of this company anymore? Like, do we still care about this company the way we once did? Is it the alternative anymore? Is it just trying to be WWE like? What is this thing? And I think those two things, they do kind of go hand in hand in a weird way. And you know what? We weren't the only people in like the world that had noticed this about Hangman Adam Page. A certain person on the roster had also seen this. They'd also been watching. They'd been observing Hangman Page, and you know what? They had something to say about it, and that is exactly what they did during September 2023 at the start of that month, and that is what kicked off a game changer. Because like a couple of weeks after the biggest wrestling show of all time, apparently, Swerve Strickland came out on AEW Dynamite, and he just walked straight up to Hangman Page. He confronted him and he was like, you know what, got a few things to say about you, Hangman, and you're probably not going to like them. He called out Hangman Page for seemingly being content with being this like background figure over the last year or so. He called him out for that. He said, you've also not like changed your gear for about a year, you've not had any new merch, all this stuff. He was like, what's going on? Have you given up? Have you just lost all that energy, all that fire? Well, if you have, I want your spot. So if you can either fight for it or just get out of the way. I also loved within this little confrontation, because obviously I went back and revisited it before I did this video, there was a moment where he literally said, it seems like you don't even want this anymore, Hangman, and if you don't, I'm just going to take it. I'm going to take it away because I'm just merciless and I will do that. And that right there was enough to just kick off something, like just ignite, spark something to life within Hangman Page. You could see it in his eyes, and well, that's probably the beginning of this soul being saved. And in the weeks and months that followed, Swerve just found new and quite horrible ways to get under Hangman's skin and just really start pushing him past his limits, just trying to find where those limits were and just go, you know what, well, you're gonna have to go even further than that if you're ever gonna stop me, because I will do anything. I have no regard for human life. I will do anything to take what you have because I think I deserve it. I think if I had it, I would already been a world champion by now. That's how confident I am. Like, there was even a point within those first couple of weeks where I think Hangman Page stabbed Swerve with a pen, and right there you were like, okay, that's a bit un-Hangman-like. I feel like he's already just tapping into a bit of darkness here. Swerve has pushed the right buttons and he set something off which would, well, it'd come back to haunt him. Because who will ever be able to forget just how personal Swerve Strickland made this entire program, like amidst all the matches, all the brutal, chaotic matches that went down, the moment that really seemed to snap something within Hangman Page was when Swerve Strickland invaded his home. Like, in Swerve's mind, he was just annoyed because Hangman had cost him like title opportunities, but he just took things to extreme lengths by going into his house, like breaking into his home and standing over Hangman Page's kid's crib and then putting a t-shirt on him. Like, there's just lines you don't cross, and he crossed it because, again, this was a guy who was willing to do whatever it took to take that spot. And if that already hadn't really brassed off this cowboy and like really lit a fire in him, on top of this, like every match that they'd had together, Swerve had like found a way to win either through cheating or interference or whatever it was, or not even been able to win and just like had a draw and still like managed to just like get the better of Hangman Page without ever technically beating him clean. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just really just irking him and annoying him. And I got to a point where they were having matches. They had like a 3-way for the World Championship with Samoa Joe, and Hangman snapped again and started assaulting referees. Like, this guy, he'd been gotten to well and truly, and he was just determined to do whatever it took to get revenge on Swerve. He wasn't even bothered, really. It seemed like on the title at this point, it was just, I need to inflict revenge on this awful man, and if that means I've got to like sacrifice a world title like opportunity or a win, which he did in that Revolution match, like he sacrificed the chance to win just so Swerve Strickland couldn't win. He was that petty, he was that bitter about this whole thing. And then when Hangman did finally come back into the picture after he'd been, you know, suspended from all that referee horribleness that had gone down in the pay-per-view, he was absolutely perplexed at how these fans now were cheering for Swerve Strickland after all he'd done. He invaded a man's home. Like, that is enough. Like, any person in the audience who has kids would just know that no, that's a horrible person right there. That is a monster. But he was being cheered because he's just so damn cool and so damn good. But understandably, Hangman was just pissed by all this. And again, it was all just adding layers upon layers to this new version of the Hangman character that, again, was now arguably the most captivating in AEW. Again, we just found a way to just make him, give him a focus, give him a direction for the first time in like 18 months. And unsurprisingly, it made him probably the most engaging thing on television. There were lovely little details in there, like Hangman Page being distracted whenever he saw a kid in the audience because he'd see a child and be like, oh, I wasn't there to protect my child. And it was just adding more detail and complexity to this apparent villain who was just a really upset man. And he was so driven for revenge that he wanted to do all that he could to get his hands on Swerve, be that entering the Owen Hart Cup and winning that and getting to Wembley and challenging for the title and taking that away from him on a big stage. He couldn't obviously do that, but he was willing to destroy anybody who got in his path doing that. He then used the Elite, his old pals, he used them as well just to get into the blood and guts match, and then didn't even come out at his own entrance because he was just, again, he didn't care about who was going to win and lose. He just wanted to get into the match and beat up Swerve, which is what he did, but then his team ultimately lost the match. And then on the way to the casino gauntlet thing, he beat up Evil Uno, his old friend. He beat him up because he was threatening to get in his way, like coming into that match as well. He'd alienated all the people that he loved and cared about and that he'd worked so hard to rebuild all these relationships with. He just pushed everyone away again because he was just so focused and determined on just kicking the crap out of this person who jeopardized his family and put his family in danger. He could only see that. He was blinded. Hell, he even tried to cost Swerve the title at All In. He tried his best to do it. He wasn't really the reason that it happened, but he tried his damn best. And then after this, that's when things got really interesting. Because when I say that AEW managed to save their soul, like through this program, like obviously the soul we're talking about, like primarily here is Hangman Page, they also, in this feud, managed to save their identity, like their soul as a company in a way, and let me explain why. Because it was the level of detail within this program from start to finish that really just sets it apart and puts it into that top bracket of your CM Punk, MJFs, your Hangman Page, Kenny Omegas, that it puts it in that bracket because of stuff like this. Swerve Strickland obviously signed a new contract. That was a big thing. Like, they made a big song and dance about it around the time of All In, and then after this, like a week after, whenever it was, Swerve said that he'd use this money to buy his old family home. Like, that was a big thing. Like, it was really public, but Hangman Page, being the just driven and obsessed character he is, saw that and didn't think, oh, that's nice for him. No, he saw, okay, I've finally seen a weakness and I'm gonna target that weakness. And things got hot. Because, yep, Hangman Page went to the family home, went to it, and set it on fire. That is what this character, this guy, literally, I went back and like watched videos of when these two came face to face for the first time, all those months ago, like a year ago, and seeing that version of Hangman Page, like opposite the person who was sat outside Swerve Strickland's family home whilst it was on fire, just sitting on a chair, just living his best life. It was just like two completely different beings. One was like an alien, one was a human. It was madness. But it was the detail of that. It was the planting of that seed. Like, oh, he's signed a new contract. Nobody thought anything of it. They thought, okay, great, good for Swerve. Oh, he's bought his family home. Lovely. Nope, that was all tying into a storyline. Everything counted. Within this feud, everything has counted, and that is AEW at its best. This has restored the feeling more than any flippy-dippy technical masterclasses ever could, because this is what AEW is. It's long-term, thought-out stories where every single second counts. But you know what? Their steel cage, lights out, unsanctioned finale at All Out that's just happened, like that match in itself, this climax of the feud was also a way of like rediscovering or reclaiming the soul of AEW. Because first of all, like the lights out unsanctioned stipulation just as a thing, very early on in AEW's life, like its existence, that was a way of like really establishing it and setting it apart as an alternative, because you had this brutal, barbaric match where anything can go. It felt like just a fight. It wasn't even a wrestling match really, and it had all this controversy attached to it. People were like, oh, they've gone too far, like what are they doing here? But straight away, it was for the sickos. You were like, okay, this is, I'm never going to see that on WWE television. This feels like something new, something fresh, something exciting. So that in itself felt like a tribute, or like a way of acknowledging, going, no, we're going to go back to our roots a little bit here. We're going to go gritty and dirty and violent, because that's what AEW should have always been. It should not have been trying to be like a sports entertainment light. And then you got the match itself, which was absolutely just the absolute peak of this storyline, peaked at the perfect point, because both characters now had been built into a position where you could see both sides. You had empathy for this monster that was Swerve Strickland, who, again, we've not really said it a lot in this video, like we've not given him the flowers that he really deserves, but Swerve has been the perfect foil to Hangman throughout all of this, and they've managed to make him, they've fleshed him out as a three-dimensional character. He started out as a monster that was just attacking people's homes and all the rest of it, into this person now that you really give a damn about, because you just watch this guy's family home get set on fire and really carry the company on his back for most of 2024. You give a damn about that man, but you also give a damn about the other man whose house had been invaded and had all this, like, these things taken away from him and just been driven to the point of insanity. Like, you got it both. You got both characters. This was the layers. This is the detail that we love about AEW. And then the match itself, they just killed each other, didn't they? They killed each other. They slammed each other on cinder blocks, put needles in each other's mouths, and like barbed wire everywhere. There was a steel chair headshot. I've probably forgotten an awful lot, because it was brutal. It was barbaric. It was everything this finale needed to be, and it does feel now like the nail in the coffin that is this feud. And for me, the sign of a really exceptional masterclass in booking kind of feud is when both characters, when you finish that feud, you're thinking about what comes next and you are genuinely excited and interested. Like with Swerve, he's probably going to take a bit of time off now. He's probably going to go and sit on the sidelines a little bit, just have a well-deserved rest for being the MVP of this company over the last year. Like, Swerve, it is your house, like your actual house, not the burnt down one, I know too soon. But yeah, he's going to get a good rest now, hopefully. But then Hangman, where do we go now? because he has gone past the point of no return. He's tried to kill a man in the middle of the ring, understandably in a way, because like that guy targeted his family, like we get that, but he's still done something that the old Hangman would have never gone anywhere near. Like that it just would have been unthinkable for the old Hangman. So we've got a new human being here, and one that's deeply conflicted. You could see at the end of the match, he actually went to go back down the ramp in a weird way to be like, oh, I may have gone too far here. I need to go and check on this guy that I've wanted to kill for so long. And then as he went to leave, I think some people call it like the cameras in the arena, that he was looking to go down the babyface tunnel, you know, like the heel babyface tunnel. He was like, oh, have I done the right thing? Am I right here? And then he decided, no, I'm maybe not. I'm the villain, and went down the villain tunnel. It's just, again, another glorious detail within this incredible feud. And look, I'm really intrigued by all this, like what you think is going to come next for Hangman Page, what you think is going to come next for Swerve. So obviously let me know what you think in the comment section below, because I hope you've been as gripped by all this incredible feud as I have, because it's restored my faith. It's restored the feeling in my eyes in AEW, but it's restored my faith in this company as well. But most importantly, the feud has saved the soul of AEW. It's saved that soul, the heart and soul of the company that is Hangman Page, because just never forget where this guy was like 18 months ago. In my mind, I was thinking, well, is this it? Have we seen the best of this character? Like, where's he going to go now? I'm a bit bored by it all. Like, I just feel like we're going to keep replaying the hits with Hangman a little bit, like, oh, what are we going to do? And now look at him. He's easily the most captivating person. I've said that word a lot throughout this video, but he is, for me, he's the most captivating figure in the company right now. I'm so excited for what comes next for Hangman, and we've got to celebrate Swerve Strickland for everything he's done in this feud. Like, it's both helped Hangman, but it's also established Swerve as this main event megastar talent as well. So they've just both helped each other incredibly all the way through this. It has been masterful. It has been all-timer stuff, but most importantly, it has saved the heart and soul of AEW that was lost in the desert for way too long. Good to have you back, Hangman. Just keep your matches in your pocket. So thank you very much for listening to my ramblings about how AEW managed to save the character that is Hangman Page over the last year and a bit. Their soul, you could say. If you've enjoyed yourself, then hit on this other video thing here. Click on it around my face, wherever it is, because you'll have a good time with it. I can guarantee you that. But more importantly than all that, just have yourself a good time, and hopefully I'll see you very soon for more of these rambling words. Bleh.